At Christmas dinner, they said, eat in the car. My brother smirked. Why waste a seat on you? Everyone had a spot, even my cousin who stole from me. I took my gift, faced my brother, said, check under your plate, and left. Mom called. Dad followed. Can you imagine showing up to what should be a joyful family Christmas dinner, only to be told there's no room for you, literally? That's what happened to me, Miranda, at 34, when my brother Travis smirked and asked, why would we waste a seat on you? My heart shattered, but what happened next shocked everyone, especially him. Growing up, I quickly learned that family dynamics aren't always fair. As the middle child between Travis, 37, and Lauren, 31, I watched Travis become the golden child, Lauren the adorable baby, and me, well, I was just there. My earliest memory of Travis's cruelty goes back to first grade. I'd spent weeks on an art project, a detailed diorama, only to find it destroyed the night before the fair. Travis, ever the smooth liar, blamed me. My parents, as always, believed him. I cried myself to sleep while my father helped Travis build his project, which, of course, won first place. This pattern continued. Honor roll. Travis said I cheated. Prom date. Travis told him I was talking about another guy, and my date canceled 3 days before. College was supposed to be my escape, but holidays meant returning to the same toxic environment. I brought home Dean, my first serious boyfriend, and Travis spent the entire weekend telling embarrassing, fabricated stories about me. Dean broke up with me a week later. Even after graduation, when I landed a position at a prestigious architectural firm, Travis would interrupt my accomplishments with his own bigger news. If I designed an office building, he just closed a larger real estate deal. Promotion? He'd acquired a new investment property. Then there was my cousin, Alicia. We used to be so close, like sisters, until Grandmother Rose passed away 5 years ago. Grandmother had promised me her antique silver locket, a family heirloom that had traveled from Ireland with our ancestors. The day after her funeral, I went to collect it, but it was gone. Later, I saw it around Alicia's neck. She claimed Grandmother gave it to her privately. My family, knowing it was a lie, sided with Alicia. My mother said I was confused by grief. My father told me not to make a scene. Every family gathering since then, Alicia has worn that locket, a constant, painful reminder of what was stolen and how little my family valued my truth. Last year was particularly difficult. I received a significant promotion, becoming the youngest senior architect in my firm's history. I bought a beautiful apartment with a park view and was even featured in an architectural magazine. Yet, at Thanksgiving dinner, my family spent the entire meal discussing Travis's new vacation home and Lauren's wedding plans. My promotion was barely mentioned before my mother quickly changed the subject to Travis's golf game. After that Thanksgiving, I started seeing Dr. Marshall, a therapist specializing in family trauma. Our sessions helped me recognize the manipulation and emotional abuse I had normalized. Dr. Marshall suggested setting boundaries, even taking a break from family gatherings. But I insisted. They're still my family. If I could just make them see me, really see me, maybe things could change. Her expression was sympathetic but doubtful. Sometimes, she said gently, the family we choose is more important than the family we're born into. Still, I decided to try one more time. For Christmas, I spent weeks preparing perfect gifts. A handcrafted scarf for my mother, a first edition for my father, a custom photo album for Lauren, and for Travis, something special, something I'd planned meticulously. Under the elegant wrapping was a bound collection of evidence. Emails where he undermined me, screenshots of messages admitting his lies, a recording from last Christmas where he mocked how easy it was to turn our parents against me. Finally, a note explaining this was my last attempt to show them who he really was. Dr. Marshall had warned me, but a part of me needed to make one final stand. So, on Christmas morning, I packed my car with presents, a homemade apple pie using Grandmother Rose's recipe, and hoped this year would be different. I drove to my parents' house, butterflies in my stomach, rehearsing what I'd say if Travis started his usual tactics. What I never prepared for was being told I wasn't even worthy of a seat at the table. I arrived at 3 p.m. The house was a magazine cover, twinkling lights, a festive wreath, perfectly symmetrical Christmas trees. I checked my reflection in the car mirror. I looked good, confident, polished, the version of myself I wanted my family to finally see and respect. My mother, elegant in red cashmere, greeted me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Miranda," she said, "you're right on time." It felt more like an accusation than a compliment. Inside, my father was enthusiastically embracing Lauren and her husband, Patrick, while Travis held court with aunts and uncles, his wife Rachel by his side, her diamond bracelet catching the light. "Miranda's here," my mother announced flatly. A few heads turned, offering perfunctory smiles before returning to their conversations. Only Lauren broke away for a brief hug. "Nice dress," she whispered. "Mom's been stressed. Maybe don't bring up work stuff." Before I could respond, Alicia entered with her new boyfriend, Justin. The family swarmed them, and around Alicia's neck, catching the Christmas tree lights, was Grandmother Rose's silver locket. I placed my gifts under the tree and tried to join a conversation about travel. My Aunt Barbara was describing her Alaskan cruise. "It sounds amazing," I said. "I've been researching sustainable tourism options." She glanced at me, nodded vaguely, then turned slightly, excluding me from the circle. This pattern repeated. Conversation stopped when I approached. Questions about my life were superficial, quickly redirected. When it was time for photos, my mother organized everyone in front of the fireplace. Travis and Rachel in the center, Lauren and Patrick on the left, Alicia and Justin on the right, aunts, uncles, cousins filling out the arrangement. "Mom," I asked quietly, "where should I stand?" She blinked, as if just remembering I was there. "Oh, Miranda, could you actually take the photo? You're so good with that sort of thing." I swallowed the lump in my throat and took the camera, capturing multiple shots of my smiling family while I remained invisible behind the lens. Later, as I helped arrange appetizers, Travis approached. "Green is certainly a bold choice for your complexion," he said, just loud enough for relatives to hear. "But I guess architecture firms don't exactly prioritize fashion sense, do they?" I forced a smile. "How's the real estate market, Travis?" "Heard interest rates have made things challenging." His eyes narrowed. "For amateurs, maybe. My portfolio's never been stronger." He leaned closer, voice dropping. "How's your therapy going? Mom mentioned you've been getting help for your issues." He'd rushed to my face. My therapy sessions were private. I had only told my mother in confidence. "I'm doing very well, thank you," I replied stiffly, arranging mushrooms with more force than necessary. Travis chuckled, satisfied. "Good to hear. We're all very concerned about your stability." He patted my shoulder condescendingly before rejoining Rachel. Across the room, Alicia touched the locket, laughing. Our eyes met briefly, and I thought I saw a flicker of guilt before she deliberately turned away. As the afternoon wore on, I noticed something odd about the dining room setup. My mother, a stickler for tradition, always used her best china. The table was beautifully set, but I counted only 10 place settings for 12 people, including me. My name card was nowhere to be found. "Mom," I asked, finding her in the kitchen, "I don't see my place card." She kept her eyes on the oven. "Don't worry about that now, Miranda. Why don't you refill the ice bucket?" An uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. When I returned, I overheard my mother whispering to my aunt in the hallway. "I don't know why she's making such a fuss," my mother was saying. "It's not like she ever enjoys these gatherings anyway, always sitting there with that look on her face." "But Susan," my aunt replied, "surely there's room to squeeze in one more chair?" My mother sighed dramatically. "Richard's back has been bothering him, he needs space. And Travis specifically asked that we keep things intimate this year. You know how he feels about Miranda's attitude." They fell silent as they noticed me, ice bucket in hand. My aunt, at least, had the grace to look embarrassed. My mother simply took the ice and walked away. I retreated to the bathroom, locking the door. Staring at my reflection, I wondered how I could have been so naive. I had come hoping for acceptance, for a place in my family, when they had already decided I didn't deserve one. Literally. Taking a deep breath, I splashed cold water on my face. I had two choices: leave and preserve what little dignity I had left, or stay and see this through to whatever humiliating conclusion awaited me. I thought about Travis's gift under the tree, about years of exclusion and gaslighting, about Dr. Marshall's words about chosen family. Then I straightened my shoulders, unlocked the door, and headed back to the living room. I would see this through one way or another. This Christmas would be different. "Dinner is served," my mother's voice rang out at 5 p.m. Family members migrated toward the delicious aromas. The dining room was a vision of holiday perfection, gleaming mahogany, soft chandelier light, a red and green runner with pine cones and cinnamon sticks. Tall red candles flickered, reflecting off crystal glasses and cream-colored china with hand-painted holly borders. Each napkin was folded into a Christmas tree. My mother's elegant calligraphy marked each person's assigned seat. The centerpiece was a lush arrangement of red roses, white lilies, and pine branches, professionally designed. Everything was meticulous, perfect. Everyone began finding their seats. My father took the head, my mother the foot. Travis and Rachel were at my father's right, the position of honor. Lauren and Patrick sat at my mother's right. Alicia and Justin were placed across from Travis and Rachel, while my aunt and uncle completed the arrangement. I stood awkwardly at the threshold, waiting for someone to notice the obvious problem. No one did. Or rather, no one chose to acknowledge it. Finally, as everyone settled, my Aunt Barbara glanced up at me, still standing in the doorway. Discomfort crossed her face before she quickly looked away, suddenly very interested in straightening her napkin. "Mom," I said, my voice strangely calm despite my hammering heart. "Where should I sit?" A hush fell over the table. My mother paused, serving mashed potatoes, her expression momentarily frozen before shifting into a practiced smile. "Oh, Miranda," she said lightly, as if addressing a minor inconvenience. "The table's quite full with everyone here. I thought you could eat in the car. It's just for today." The words hung in the air like ice crystals, sharp and cold. I felt as if I'd been slapped. Around the table, gazes dropped to plates. Wine glasses suddenly became fascinating objects. Then Travis, emboldened by the silence, looked directly at me with that familiar smirk. "Why would we waste a seat on you?" he asked, his tone casual, but his eyes gleaming with malice. The room seemed to tilt. I gripped the door frame to steady myself, looking at each face, searching for someone, anyone who would speak up. My father stared intently at his plate, methodically cutting turkey. Lauren bit her lip, her eyes darting between me and Travis, but she remained silent. Rachel, Travis's wife, had the decency to look uncomfortable, but she placed her hand over his in a gesture of solidarity. Alicia touched grandmother's locket, then quickly dropped her hand. Justin, clearly confused, looked to Alicia, who simply shook her head. My aunt and uncle exchanged glances but said nothing. My mother continued serving food as if nothing unusual had happened, as if suggesting her daughter eat Christmas dinner alone in a cold car was perfectly normal. I looked around the table once more, taking in every detail. Everyone had a place. Everyone except me. Even Alicia, who had stolen something precious and faced no consequences, sat comfortably accepted. My face burned with humiliation, my stomach felt hollow. Tears threatened, but I refused to give Travis the satisfaction of seeing me cry. Instead, I took a slow, deep breath, feeling something shift inside me. For years, I had sought approval from these people. I had made excuses for their behavior, blamed myself for not being lovable enough, tried harder and harder to earn a place in their hearts. And here was the literal manifestation of my position in the family all along. There was no room for me at their table. There never had been. I glanced toward the Christmas tree, where Travis's gift sat. In that moment, standing excluded in the doorway of my childhood home, while my family prepared to enjoy Christmas dinner without me, something crystallized in my mind. This wasn't a momentary lapse or an oversight. This was the culmination of a lifetime of being treated as less than, as unwanted, as the family member they tolerated rather than loved. And for the first time, I didn't feel the crushing weight of rejection. Instead, I felt something else entirely, clarity. I remembered slipping Travis's gift under his plate earlier while helping set the table. No one had noticed. No one ever noticed what I did, unless it was to criticize. I looked back at the table, at my brother's smug expression, my mother's deliberate avoidance, my father's cowardice, Alicia wearing my grandmother's locket at the empty space where I should have been sitting, and I made a decision that would change everything. Standing in that doorway, excluded from my own family Christmas dinner, a strange calm descended over me. It was as if I was watching the scene from outside my body, seeing with perfect clarity what had been true all along. This wasn't new behavior. This was simply the most honest version of what had been happening my entire life. Memories flashed. Age 7, waiting alone after ballet practice because my parents forgot, too busy attending Travis's baseball game. Age 12, eating lunch alone in the school bathroom after Travis told everyone I had lice. Age 16, not allowed to go to homecoming because Travis said he'd seen me smoking behind the gym, a complete fabrication. My college graduation, where my parents left early because Travis claimed food poisoning. Job promotions met with indifference. Holidays where my gifts were open last. The pattern was undeniable. I had spent decades making excuses, telling myself that if I just achieved more, spoke more eloquently, dressed more appropriately, somehow I would finally earn their love and respect. But standing there, watching them begin to eat as if my exclusion was the most natural thing in the world, I finally understood. Nothing I could ever do would be enough, because the problem had never been me. A curious warmth spread through my chest, replacing the cold ache of rejection. It wasn't happiness, exactly. It was something more powerful, liberation. The freedom that comes with finally acknowledging a painful truth instead of running from it. Dr. Marshall's words echoed, "Miranda, you keep trying to win a game that's rigged against you. The only winning move might be not to play." Under Travis's plate sat the envelope. Inside was evidence I'd collected over years. Screenshots of texts where he bragged about turning our parents against me, emails undermining my character, a recording where he admitted to deliberately sabotaging my relationships, a copy of Grandmother Rose's will, specifically leaving her locket to me, which the family had never seen because Travis had intercepted it. I had gathered these meticulously, initially planning to confront them all, to force them to see the truth. I had imagined tears, apologies, a dramatic reconciliation, the fantasy of finally being embraced as an equal member of the family. But now, looking at them, comfortable in their exclusion, I realized that fantasy had always been just that. Even with irrefutable evidence, they would find a way to excuse Travis, to blame me, to maintain the family mythology they had invested in for decades. I considered my options. I could create a scene, dumping the evidence on the table, demanding acknowledgement. I could break down in tears, appealing to their empathy. I could grab Travis's plate and throw it. But each of those scenarios gave them power over me. Each made me the unstable one, the problem to be managed. Each would reinforce the narrative Travis had constructed. Or, I could choose a different path. I could recognize that I deserved better than fighting for scraps of affection from people who had shown they were incapable of giving it freely. I could acknowledge that family isn't just about blood, but about mutual respect and care. I could choose myself. In that moment, I made my decision. I would not beg for a seat at a table where I wasn't wanted. I would not expose Travis's manipulations to people who had actively participated in my exclusion. I would not give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. Instead, I would leave them with something that would speak louder than any emotional outburst. I would leave them with the truth, and the knowledge that I was done playing by their rules. The family continued eating, conversation resuming as they collectively ignored the uncomfortable scene. Travis was telling some story, gesturing with his fork, reveling in being the center of attention. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, no longer waiting in the doorway but entering the room with purpose. My movement caught their attention, conversations faltering as all eyes turned toward me. I walked directly to the Christmas tree and picked up my gift for Travis. The room was utterly silent. With measured steps, I approached the table. I stood directly behind Travis's chair, feeling a strange sense of power as he had to twist awkwardly to look up at me. For once, I was the one looking down at him. The dining room fell silent as I stood behind Travis, gift in hand. My heart pounded, but my voice remained steady. Travis, I said, calm and clear, I brought something special for you this Christmas. His expression shifted from annoyance to wariness. He knew me well enough to sense something had changed. Can it wait until after dinner? My mother interjected, her voice strained. No, I replied simply. It can't. I placed the elegantly wrapped box beside Travis's plate. The paper was silver with subtle snowflakes, tied with a blue ribbon that matched his eyes that now regarded me with suspicion. What is this? He asked, not touching the package. Open it, I suggested. Or don't. But either way, check under your plate. Travis's face paled slightly. His hand moved instinctively to the edge of his plate, but he hesitated. What are you talking about? My father demanded, finally finding his voice. Miranda, you're disrupting dinner. I'm disrupting dinner, I repeated, a small laugh escaping me. Not the fact that you've all decided I should eat in my car. Not Travis suggesting you be wasting a seat on me. Uncomfortable glances were exchanged. Lauren looked down. Alicia fidgeted. You're being dramatic, Travis said, attempting to regain control. It's just seating arrangements. Not everything is about you. You're right, I agreed. It's not about me. It's about you, Travis. It always has been. I gestured toward his plate. Go ahead. Look underneath. Something in my tone must have unsettled him, because Travis actually pushed back his chair. With obvious reluctance, he lifted his plate, revealing the cream-colored envelope. The table watched in intense silence as he opened it and removed the contents. His face, always so controlled, visibly shifted as he scanned the first page. Color drained from his cheeks, then rushed back as anger replaced shock. What is this? He demanded, voice tight. The truth, I replied simply. Something this family isn't particularly familiar with. His eyes darted back to the papers, then up to me, then around the table. For perhaps the first time in his life, Travis Parker was speechless. What is it? My mother asked, straining to see. Nothing, Travis said quickly, attempting to stuff the papers back. It's evidence, I said calmly. Screenshots of texts where Travis brags about turning you against me. Emails where he undermines me. A recording from last Thanksgiving where he admits to lying about me for years. Rachel, Travis's wife, frowned and reached for the envelope. Let me see that. Travis pulled it away. It's nothing. Miranda's making things up as usual. Am I? I asked. Then why are you hiding it? If I'm lying, show everyone. Travis's jaw clenched. He knew he was caught. There's also a copy of Grandmother Rose's will, I continued, looking directly at Alicia, the one specifically leaving her locket to me. Alicia's hand flew to the locket. I didn't. She gave it to me, she stammered. No, she didn't, I said firmly. Travis told you I didn't want it. He intercepted the will and convinced you Grandmother had changed her mind. Alicia turned to Travis, confusion and betrayal dawning on her face. Is that true? Travis stood abruptly, his chair scraping loudly. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to sit here and listen to these accusations. Then don't, I replied. But everyone should know that I've made copies of everything in that envelope. I'm done protecting this family's illusions about their golden boy. My father finally found his voice. Miranda, that's enough. This is Christmas dinner, for God's sake. Yes, it is, I agreed. A dinner I wasn't welcome at. A family I've never truly been welcome in. I turned my attention back to Travis, who was gripping the envelope so tightly his knuckles were white. Check under your plate again, I instructed. With visible reluctance, he lifted his plate once more to reveal a small, handwritten note I had placed beneath the envelope. Read it, I said. Travis's eyes scanned the note, his expression hardening. When he didn't speak, I recited the words I had written hours earlier. This is the last time I will try to make you see me. The last time I will fight for a place in this family. I release you from the burden of pretending to care about me, and I release myself from the burden of seeking your approval. The silence that followed was profound. Around the table, expressions ranged from shock to discomfort to the beginning glimmers of understanding. I took a step back, surveying the scene one last time. The perfect table setting, the family gathered without me, the physical manifestation of what had always been emotionally true. "Merry Christmas," I said quietly. "Enjoy your dinner." With that, I turned and walked steadily through the living room, retrieving my coat and purse. No one followed me. No one called my name. As I opened the front door, I heard raised voices from the dining room, the beginning of what would undoubtedly be a complicated conversation. But it wouldn't be my conversation. Not anymore. The winter air was crisp against my face as I walked to my car. Snow had begun to fall, dusting the world with a clean white blanket. I sat behind the wheel for a moment, watching the snowflakes swirl in the porch light. Then I started the engine, closed the car door, and drove away from the house I'd grown up in, feeling lighter than I had in years. I checked into the Parkview Hotel. The lobby was decorated tastefully, soft carols playing. "Just you tonight?" asked Bethany, the receptionist, with a kind smile. "Yes," I replied, suddenly aware of how it looked, checking into a hotel alone on Christmas, still in a party dress. I had a change of plans. Bethany's expression was professionally neutral, but her eyes held understanding. "I've put you in a room with a view of the park. The restaurant is serving a special Christmas dinner until 9 o'clock. I thanked her, grateful for her discretion. In my room, I kicked off my heels. The hurt was still there, a dull ache, but it was accompanied by something unexpected relief. My phone began buzzing almost immediately. Lauren's text. What was in that envelope? "Travis is freaking out. Are you okay?" I didn't respond. My mother called next, leaving a voicemail. "Miranda, this behavior is completely unacceptable. You've ruined Christmas dinner and upset everyone. Call me back immediately so we can discuss how you're going to apologize to Travis." I deleted the message. My father texted. "Your mother is very upset. Please call." I turned my phone off. After a shower, I changed into a bathrobe and ordered room service. The Christmas dinner special arrived. I ate by the window, watching snow fall on the park below, Christmas lights reflecting off the white ground. It wasn't how I'd imagined spending Christmas, but there was a strange peace in the solitude. No walking on eggshells, no bracing for Travis's next barb, no pretending everything was fine. I turned my phone back on around 9 p.m. More missed calls and texts, but one message caught my eye. From Alicia. "Can we talk?" "Not about the locket. About Travis." I hesitated, then replied. "Tomorrow. Coffee at Marcus Cafe. 10 a.m. The next morning, I arrived at Marcus Cafe. Alicia was already there, fidgeting, grandmother's locket conspicuously absent. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Why did you want to see me?" I asked, not unkindly. Alicia took a deep breath. "After you left, everything fell apart. Travis tried to destroy the papers, but Rachel grabbed them. She read some of it out loud." Alicia's eyes met mine. "Is it true that he told you I was making fun of your dress at Cousin Bet's wedding? And that you said my career was just a hobby until I found a husband?" "I never said that," Alicia whispered. "I've always admired your work. I tell people my cousin is this amazing architect who designs sustainable buildings." "And I never said you were too unstable to handle grandmother's locket," I replied. "That was Travis too." Tears filled Alicia's eyes. "He played us against each other all these years. We talked for 2 hours, unraveling years of misunderstandings and manufactured conflicts." Alicia revealed that Rachel had confronted Travis about other messages in the envelope, including texts to another woman. The Christmas dinner had devolved into multiple arguments, with Travis eventually storming out. "Your mom kept saying you were exaggerating," Alicia said, "but your dad actually stood up to her. He said they'd been enabling Travis for too long. I've never seen him like that." When our meeting ended, Alicia handed me a small gift box. Inside was Grandmother Rose's locket. "It was always meant for you," she said simply. "I'm sorry it took me so long to return it." Over the following week, my phone continued to light up. My mother's messages moved from demanding apologies to desperate attempts to maintain the status quo. "We can put this all behind us if you'll just talk to Travis. Families have disagreements, but we need to stick together. You're overreacting to a simple misunderstanding about seating." I deleted them. My father, surprisingly, took a different approach. His initial messages asked me to call my mother, but gradually shifted. "I've been thinking about what happened," he wrote 3 days after Christmas. "I didn't handle things well. I should have spoken up. Lauren called me on New Year's Eve. Travis and Rachel are getting divorced," she said. She found more messages on his phone. "It's a whole thing." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said and meant it. Rachel had never been unkind to me. "Are you?" Lauren sounded surprised. "His marriage failing doesn't fix anything," I replied. "It's just more pain." Lauren was quiet for a moment. "I should have said something at dinner when Mom told you to eat in the car. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't speak up." "No, you didn't," I agreed, not offering easy forgiveness. "Can we have lunch sometime?" she asked hesitantly. "I'd like to try to be a better sister." I agreed to think about it. The most surprising communication came from my Aunt Barbara, who had always been firmly in my mother's camp. She sent a handwritten card that arrived a week after New Year's. "What happened at Christmas dinner made me reflect on how we've all treated you," she wrote. "I've been complicit in allowing Travis to control the family narrative. I want to apologize and hope that someday you might give me a chance to know the niece I've never properly appreciated." Not everyone reached out. My mother's messages grew less frequent, then stopped. Travis never contacted me directly, but I heard through Lauren that he was attempting damage control. 2 weeks after Christmas, I had my regular session with Dr. Marshall. I told her everything. "How do you feel about your decision now?" she asked. "Sad," I admitted, but not regretful. "It feels like mourning something that never really existed." "And what about moving forward? What kind of relationship, if any, do you want with your family?" I think I need time," I said slowly. "With some of them, like Lauren and my dad, maybe there's a path forward with better boundaries. With others, like my mother and Travis, I don't know if anything healthy is possible there." Dr. Marshall nodded. "That's a very insightful perspective. Healing family relationships doesn't always mean returning to the same dynamics. Sometimes it means creating entirely new ones with clear boundaries and expectations. And sometimes it means recognizing that certain relationships may never be healthy for you." As January turned to February, I began establishing those new boundaries. I agreed to occasional lunches with Lauren, with the understanding that she wouldn't relay information back to our mother or Travis. I had one careful phone call with my father, who apologized again. I told him I wasn't ready to meet in person yet. Alicia and I began rebuilding our relationship, discovering that without Travis's interference, we actually had much in common. She invited me to her apartment for dinner, where she displayed grandmother's photo in a prominent place. "I want to remember who she really was," Alicia explained, "not the version of her that Travis created to divide us." I maintained my distance from my mother and Travis. It wasn't easy. There were days when I doubted myself, when old patterns of thinking suggested I was being too harsh, that family should forgive anything. On those days, I reread my journal entry from Christmas night, reminding myself of exactly what had happened and how it made me feel. By the time spring arrived, bringing cherry blossoms to the park outside my apartment window, I had created a new kind of family structure, one built on mutual respect rather than obligation. One where my voice mattered. One where a seat at the table wasn't conditional on accepting mistreatment. It wasn't perfect. There were still difficult conversations, still moments of grief for what might have been. But for the first time in my life, I was relating to my family as an adult with boundaries, not a child desperately seeking approval. And that made all the difference. 6 months after that fateful Christmas dinner, I stood in my newly redecorated apartment, surveying the changes with satisfaction. Gone were the muted, safe colors. Now the walls were a bold teal, artwork I loved hung in carefully selected spots, and plants thrived on every surface. This space finally reflected who I was, not who I thought my family wanted me to be. My phone chimed with a text from Kimberly, a colleague who had become a close friend. "Still on for dinner night? Marcus is making his famous lasagna." I smiled and confirmed. Thursday night dinners with Kimberly and her husband had become a cherished ritual, part of the chosen family I had built. The transformation extended far beyond home decor. At work, I had taken on a leadership role in a major sustainable housing project, voicing my ideas confidently rather than holding back. My boss had commented on the change, noting that my quiet brilliance was finally getting the recognition it deserved. In my personal life, I had started dating again. Michael, an environmental engineer I met through work, appreciated my directness and respected my boundaries. Our relationship was new, but built on a foundation of mutual respect I had never experienced. My weekly sessions with Dr. Marshall continued, though we were considering transitioning to bi-weekly appointments. Through therapy, I had learned to recognize and counter the critical inner voice that sounded suspiciously like Travis, to set and maintain boundaries without guilt, and to value myself even when others didn't. "You've done remarkable work, Miranda," Dr. Marshall had told me, particularly in distinguishing between forgiveness and reconciliation. That distinction had been crucial. I had come to understand that forgiving my family, releasing my anger for my own well-being, didn't mean returning to the same toxic patterns. I could wish them well without subjecting myself to further harm. The family landscape had shifted dramatically. Travis and Rachel's divorce was finalized, and he had moved to Boston for a fresh start. Without his constant manipulation, other relationships had space to evolve. My father and I now met for lunch every other week. Our early conversations were awkward, but gradually we established a new, more honest connection. During our third lunch, he finally addressed the elephant in the room. "I failed you as a father," he said, his voice rough. "I let Travis dictate how we treated you because it was easier than standing up to him or your mother. I told myself I was keeping the peace, but really, I was just being a coward." I reached across the table and squeezed his hand, my own eyes damp. "Thank you for saying that. We weren't completely healed, perhaps never would be, but we were building something new on a foundation of truth rather than pretense." Lauren, And I had also grown closer, our relationship evolving into something more sisterly than it had ever been. She recently confided she was in therapy herself. I never realized how much the family dynamics affected me until everything blew up at Christmas, she admitted during a hike. I always thought I had it good being the baby, but now I see how it limited me too. Alicia had become an unexpected ally. After returning grandmother's locket, she made consistent efforts to rebuild our trust. We had discovered a shared interest in genealogy and were working together to document our grandmother's stories. My mother remained the most difficult. After weeks of silence, she eventually reached out with a carefully worded non-apology. I'm sorry if you felt hurt by the seating arrangements. When I didn't immediately accept, she cycled through guilt trips, anger, and finally a grudging acknowledgement that perhaps she had been a bit insensitive. We had spoken twice on the phone, brief, surface-level conversations. I had declined 3 invitations to family gatherings, not yet ready to test those waters. My mother interpreted this as punishment rather than self-protection, but I was learning to let her misinterpretations be her problem, not mine. The approaching holiday season brought new considerations. 4th of July, Thanksgiving, and eventually Christmas would all require decisions about family involvement. But unlike the previous year, I now approached these decisions from a position of choice rather than obligation. For the first time, I was planning a 4th of July gathering at my apartment, inviting friends and selected family members who had demonstrated respect for my boundaries. My father, Lauren, and Alicia would be there. My mother had not been invited, a decision that prompted another round of texts about family loyalty, but I held firm. Perhaps the most profound change was internal. The constant anxiety, the need to prepare defenses for family encounters, the anticipatory dread before any interaction with Travis, all had diminished significantly. In their place was a quiet confidence, a knowledge that I could trust myself to maintain appropriate boundaries. I wore Grandmother Rose's locket now, not every day, but on occasions that felt significant. The silver oval contained a tiny photo of her in her youth, smiling with the same eyes I saw in the mirror. Sometimes I touched it and imagined her pride in seeing me finally stand up for myself. One evening in early summer, I sat on my balcony, journal open on my lap. I used to think family was something you were born into, a fixed constellation you had to navigate regardless of how it made you feel. Now I understand that family, real family, is built on actions, not blood. It's created through respect, kindness, and mutual support. Some of my blood relatives have earned a place in this new definition of family, others have not. And that's okay. The most important lesson I've learned is that I don't need to set myself on fire to keep others warm. My worth isn't determined by my family's recognition. My place in the world isn't dependent on having a seat at their table. I can build my own table, surrounded with people who truly see and value me, and that table will be far richer than any I was excluded from. I closed the journal, watching as the last rays of sunlight painted the sky. The woman who had stood in her parents' doorway last Christmas, desperately seeking approval, felt like a different person now. I had walked away from that table, but in doing so, I had found my way back to myself. And that was the most important gift of all. Have you ever had to walk away from family to protect your mental health? What boundaries have you created in your relationships? Share your experiences in the comments below. I really want to know. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more stories of personal growth, and share with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to choose themselves sometimes. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, the most important table is the one where you feel valued just as you are.